Welcome back to Undead Basement Video, everyone. I'm your host, JD, and in honor of No Time to Die coming out on October 8th, I'm going to talk some James Bond. Specifically, my favorite Bond movie of all time, License to Kill, starring my all-time favorite Bond actor, Timothy Dalton. In the movie, a drug lord by the name of Franz Sanchez takes revenge against Bond's CIA buddy, Felix Leiter, for busting him by having his newlywed wife killed and having a shark bite his leg off, which causes Bond to go rogue from MI6 in order to get revenge on Sanchez. And what follows is probably one of the greatest revenge movies I've ever seen. Now, when this movie was released in the summer of '89, it faced a lot of stiff competition from the likes of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Ghostbusters 2, and easily the biggest one, Batman. Now, standing up between either of those three movies is an impossible task, and sadly this movie did not manage to do that because it managed to be the lowest grossing movie in the Bond series, which kind of sucks because this movie deserved a whole lot more attention than Ghostbusters 2, I'll tell you. Not only that, it also had to deal with a rather mixed reaction between audiences and critics, with some loving it for its different tone to others hating it for its different tone. What I mean by that is that the movie was easily one of the more darker and violent Bond movies of the day. You see a little bit more blood here. I mean, you see a scene where a goon gets his fucking head blown up in a decompression chamber, among other things, and yet this still manages to retain a PG-13 rating. I have no idea how that was even possible, but somehow it is. Or at least was. Anyways. But this movie is easily my favorite in the series. And in probably one of my favorite action movies of the 80s. It just has... That's the word I'm looking for here. It kind of basically outdoes Die Hard in some aspects. It very much feels like it was trying to compete with Die Hard. Not to mention any other conventional action movie of the 80s. I mean, and Die Hard isn't just the only comparison I had, and it isn't just the only, I didn't just throw Die Hard out there. This movie has two specific Die Hard connections, namely Robert Davey, who plays the villain, was also in Die Hard, and and Michael Kamen, who does the score for the movie, who also scored Die Hard. But, the reason I love this movie so much is mainly for the performances. Timothy Dalton is my favorite Bond actor because he brought such intensity to the role, while also retaining a lot of the classic Bond charm. Of course, he's not like the cool Sean Connery, nor is he the Adam West-like Roger Moore, nor is he George Lazenby, who I wish I had more to say about. But he's more like Bond exactly as you would think Bond to be, had you never even seen any of the movies. His character was less the cool, womanizing, suave dude, and more the hard-working, consummate professional who also just happened to like pretty ladies. And he took a lot of influence from the original Ian Fleming novels, and it shows. I haven't read any of those novels, granted, so I can't exactly say whether or not it is, but either way, he totally sells Bond, more so than any other actor for me. So, outside of that, you also have Robert Davi as the villain Franz Sanchez, who is, without a doubt, possibly the greatest Bond villain of all time. He gives a very sinister performance. Definitely, I mean, just looking at any scene that he's on screen is incredibly intimidating, just by the way he looks at you, just by his face. Yeah, his performance is just really great. It's absolutely evil in every sense of the word. Not really much else to say on that. There's also the two Bond girls in the movie, Pam Bouvier, played by Carrie Lowell, and Lupe, played by Talisa Soto. Now, Pam Bouvier, Carrie Lowell, is easily my favorite Bond girl because, well, she's one of the more proactive Bond girls, helping out a lot in certain action scenes, including the end. And as opposed to other, well, maybe not as opposed, but compared to other Bond girls, she has probably the most chemistry with the Bond in this movie. She has probably the best chemistry with a Bond that I've seen. It feels very natural between her and Timothy Dalton. And then there's Talisa Soto, who plays Lupe, who I wish I had something nice to say about her acting. She's not bad, but she's very, very wooden. It's not that she's not trying, but she just does not really fit in compared to the other actors in the movie. She's definitely the odd person out. However, like all Bond girls, she is damn fine, and so is Carrie Lowell. This movie also has the most screen time for Desmond Llewellyn as Q. And it does a lot for his character, surprisingly. He basically comes in throughout the middle of the movie in order to give Bond gadgets, considering that he went rogue from MI6. He's basically doing this because Moneypenny asked him to. And it comes off as kind of sweet in a lot of areas. You kind of get a feel for the real relationship between Bond and Q, which isn't really shown in many of the other movies. And it kind of feels a bit heartwarming. Other things that make this movie absolutely excellent. Of course, the action scenes are excellent. Just some great stunt work. Dalton actually did a lot of his own stunts. I can't exactly say what scenes, but it comes off as pretty obvious in some. But, yeah, you have a really awesome opening wherein Bond and Felix hook a plane in midair, which essentially is what Christopher Nolan took inspiration for the intro to Dark Knight Rises. And you also have a really cool chase scene at the end of the movie involving tanker trucks and Stinger missiles. And it's just absolutely a lot of fun. It's like it's trying to out Mad Max. I mean, you have a whole stunt scene where Bond flips over, tips a tanker truck on the side wheels in order to dodge a Stinger missile coming right at him. And it flies right under the truck, hitting the truck behind him. You don't see that shit in Fury Road now, do you? But I digress. Michael Kamen's score really does a lot for the movie. It, like I said, considering Kamen also scored Die Hard, it definitely gives a very Die Hard feel to the movie. And that's definitely in the benefit. There's also a bit of a Latin kind of twist to the Bond theme, which also feels really interesting. Not to mention, this movie was also one of the few in the series to mostly be filmed outside of England. It was filmed mostly in Spain. Anyways. The story of the movie is also really excellent, involving a lot of interesting thematic elements, mostly loyalty. It definitely kind of plays around with a lot of characters in the movie. You know, Sanchez's loyalty to his men, Bond's loyalty to Felix, Bond's loyalty to Q, his girls, and MI6, and all of them being tested in rather interesting ways. honestly, going back to this movie several times, you pick up on it more, and it's definitely leads to this movie being one of the more rewatchable Bond movies. Now, I love the Bond series, but there's not a whole lot of them I really rewatch often. There's only a good chunk of them that I do. Certainly, this movie definitely entertains more than some other ones. Like On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Sorry, I dig the movie. I have nothing against George Lazenby, but I'm sorry, fans of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. It's boring. In a lot of parts, it's boring. Hate me in the comments all you want, but it's boring. Anyways, that all said, License to Kill is one of the few masterpieces in the Bond franchise. One of my all-time favorite action films. Just an absolute blast. If you love Die Hard, if you love movies like Scarface and Miami Vice, and if you love Bond, imagine that all being thrown into one giant blender and put on mix. It is absolutely a lot of fun, and just really a great action movie. 5 out of 5 from me. Now on home video, the Bond series has actually been treated pretty well on home video, namely DVD and Blu-ray, getting a lot of features put in to many of the movies. The picture quality on these Blu-rays are pretty good. I used to own the big Bond box set, as I call it, only I stupidly got rid of it because I'm stupid. Is what it is. But when I was growing up, I actually used to go to my local resale shop all the time, and this is around the late 2000s, let's say. I was just coming out of middle school and into high school. I'd walk over to the resale shop all the time and buy VHS tapes for like a couple bucks. And pretty much all of the resale shops in my area all had Bond films like stacked to the nines, on VHS tapes. So I'd buy a lot of those for like a couple bucks and would just watch them over the weekend. License to Kill being one of the first I actually saw, and instantly became one of my standout favorites over some of the Connery movies and more movies. And I'm not entirely sure what exactly got me to like this more, but it's probably, the tone. The tone was very different from many of the other films in the series. And in my opinion, it's definitely a benefit to it. It comes off as like Bond meets Scarface, or Bond meets Miami Vice. Hell, Sanchez, the villain in the movie, comes off as like Hans Gruber meets Tony Montana, which definitely adds to his performance. But that is all the time we have for today on the channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook. This has been Undead Basement Video. I'm JD, and I will see you next time.